My fellow St. Lucians, this 42nd anniversary of our country's independence finds us facing our greatest challenges since becoming an independent nation on the 22nd of February 1979. For the majority of us, these are indeed the greatest challenges of our lifetime, including the battle against the global public health emergency, COVID-19. We should, however, not be daunted by these challenges. Our forefathers survived the Atlantic crossing in slave ships from Africa and overcame the subjugation of slavery, the plantation system, and colonialism. Thanks to their sense of purpose and determination, today we have secured independence for the people of St. Lucia. However, this independence will remain fragile if we do not repair and strengthen some of the structures that are necessary for a strong, resilient nation. In deference to our forefathers, we must follow the example of perseverance and sense of purpose in the face of adversity and continue the work of building a truly independent nation for the benefit of all our people. I call on all St. Lucians to reflect on the current system of governance and how we can improve on it. Far too many structures and conventions that are required to support the key institutions of our democracy have been compromised, abused, and in some cases are just absent, even when our constitution and laws call for their presence. We must correct these deficiencies if we are to build an independent country where the people can trust their leaders and have an expectation that they, the people, will be treated fairly and justly. Our members of parliament must do more to earn the respect and trust of the people by being more accountable, transparent, and caring. It is only then that mutual trust and respect can be developed between the representatives and the people. In the same spirit of fostering respect and trust, elected opposition members of parliament should not be sidelined and denied access to state resources in meeting their responsibility to the people who elected them. We cannot build a truly independent nation by trampling on the democratic rights of the people who expect fair and proper representation. We can only give greater meaning to our independence by practicing open, transparent government, restoring honesty and trust in the governance of our country, and creating an independent public service with professional, competent, and fairly remunerated public servants, police officers, and teachers. It is in part for those reasons that as the leader of a new government, I will strengthen the Integrity Commission to allow for meaningful action which will deter public officials and politicians from engaging in acts of corruption. A truly independent nation must allow for inclusiveness. Otherwise, we will be left with a fragmented and weak nation, unable to make its people proud of any notable achievement which can command the attention of the rest of the world. We have produced world-class leaders in several fields of endeavor. This should remain a source of hope and inspiration that we can continue the tradition and improve the quality of life for our people. Let us, in all of this, be mindful of the very often forgotten financial burdens we place on future generations by incurring eye-popping, irresponsible, and reckless public debts. We must not deny future generations their rights to fairly enjoy the rewards of their labor. On this 42nd independent anniversary, I call and welcome the voices of the St. Lucia National Trust, the St. Lucia Bar Association, the trade unions, and other institutions to play their part without fear or favor in nation building. We need everyone to make their rightful contribution to building a better nation. For our independence to be meaningful, we must have a robust judicial system where access to justice is time-sensitive and the poor and vulnerable have the confidence that they will be treated justly and fairly. Our justice system must also reflect an understanding of the culture of our people. And in this regard, serious consideration should be given to adopting the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final appellate court and a replacement for the English-based Privy Council. In improving our democratic institutions, a Labour government under my leadership will undertake constitutional reform to reflect the hopes, ideals, and aspirations of our people in a rapidly changing environment which is calling for greater accountability and better use of scarce resources. We can strengthen our independence by pursuing a foreign policy that is firmly grounded in our national interests, that keeps regional integration as a core principle and supports our regional organizations like the OECS and the Caribbean Community. Our foreign policy should not fail to remember our traditional benefactors like the United Kingdom, the European Union, especially the French, the United States of America, Canada, Republic of China and Taiwan, Cuba, and Venezuela. We should always remain committed to developing greater South-South cooperation to support the development of our people and country. Today, the COVID-19 pandemic has not spared our island the economic, health, and social havoc it has been inflicting on the world since 2020. We have lost and continue to lose precious lives and livelihoods, have been devastated, and many of our people are still suffering, frustrated, and unsure on how this mental and physical pain will end. In this time of crisis, we must each take responsibility for our well-being. We must practice all the protocols that have been told we must follow if we are to stay safe. At the same time, the government, in formulating COVID policies, should follow the science and best practices to combat this disease and to bring it under control. We must ensure that the people that have been hardest hit by COVID-19 receive the economic and social relief and support that has been made available from international financial institutions through loans and grants. The taxi drivers, minibus drivers, fisher folk, vendors, small business owners, and farmers still wait for much needed financial assistance. We must address their needs. They have families too, which depend on them. In this COVID battle, we should put people before profits, lives before livelihoods, and health before wealth. The challenge of COVID has forcefully reminded us of the need for a first-class healthcare system that is accessible and affordable to all. This is why universal healthcare will be a topmost priority of an SLP government. We can give greater meaning to our independence by working together to tackle the challenges of an economic crisis begun by the disastrous economic policies of a government that has borrowed excessively and misspent terribly, and which has been worsened by the destructive effect of COVID-19 on our economic mainstay, the tourism industry. Our way out of this crisis will require greater attention being given to unlocking the potential of our indigenous, industrious, and disciplined entrepreneurs by assisting them to start or expand their business. We must recommit to creating an economy where the aspirations of solutions will be supported by a government seeking to encourage wealth creation regardless of their social economic backgrounds. Alongside our indigenous business, we should create a business environment which attracts credible foreign investors who can bring well-paid jobs to the people of St. Lucia. There is urgent need for a caring government which will harness the talents of its young people by giving them financial, marketing, and technical support to convert their hobbies into businesses and their skills into entrepreneurship. The funding of a vibrant youth economy to create sustainable employment for young people in the activities in which they have special interests, such as sports, entertainment, designing, creative and cultural activities, and information technology will go a long way in building self-reliance and a sense of achievement among our young citizens. With the lessons of the fallout from COVID-19 still with us, we should reduce our dependence on tourism by fully exploring new economic opportunities in food production, fish processing, the medicinal cannabis industry, the blue and orange economy, and by placing more importance on agriculture. In protecting the independence of our people in the short and long term, we must practice fiscal discipline, transparency, and accountability in the management of our economy, and place the interests and well-being of the people at the center of our economic policies. In preparation for the new demands of the business environment and the world economy, changed by COVID-19 and information and communications technology, we must revolutionize our education system at all levels. As our Nobel laureate Sir Arthur Lewis wisely said, the fundamental cure of poverty is not money, but knowledge. From its inception, 70 years ago, the St. Lucia Labour Party has embarked upon educating the poor and marginalized, and today remains committed to following that same tradition. Today, we envisage an education system which will produce at least one university graduate per household and train our young people to be adept at critical thinking and problem solving. We must produce educated and trained people for the modern world of work. In this technologically driven world of learning and working, the reinstatement of the one laptop per child program in schools will therefore be an imperative. The challenge of education is not just to adapt to ICT and digital demands of this country, but to remember the stories and lessons of our past. Too many of our people, especially the youth, know too little about their history. In the building of an independent nation, our people must have a sense of history and identity, and therefore African and Caribbean history must be taught at all levels of our education system. We should readily engage the Folk Research Center as collaborators in the process of education and work with them in rebuilding of their burnt headquarters. These are challenging times. Call for competent and caring leadership. It's a time for truth, transparency, empathy, and compassionate leadership that prioritize life, health, and the safety of the citizens. It has been a long journey to independence, which had its beginnings in the 1930s, when trade unions and other political and civil society organizations began to pressure British colonial government for representative government and the right to vote. We must give thanks to the Honorable George F.L. Charles, a selfless, humble, and caring leader, and first Chief Minister who was in the vanguard in securing our right to vote 70 years ago this year, a milestone moment along the road to independence. We must also thank our first Prime Minister, Sir John Compton, who carried the final baton across the independence line. It is now for the rest of us to keep the vision and sense of nationhood, and so I pledge to continue the work of nation building and give real meaning to independence. As we observe our 42nd anniversary of independence, let us strive to become a more honest, compassionate, and caring society. A society grounded in truth, where opportunities to all people who seek it. And as we struggle to grapple with our present difficulties, let us recommit ourselves individually to the words of our national pledge. I proclaim that I will serve my country with pride and dignity, and will defend it with vigor and valor in the pursuit of excellence, justice, and equality for all. Let me wish all of you a peaceful and blessed 42nd anniversary of independence, and remember to stay safe by observing the COVID protocols. I thank you.
Restoring the pride, it's yours and it's mine. Let's do this together, preserve for the future. Restoring the pride, it's yours and it's